So the next guest, just want to welcome on the stage. She's been in my life for 5 years, I think now. We've had our ups and downs, but we're definitely on our up now. We've grown the business together. She's been one of the best things what's ever happened to me. And I just count my blessings every single day, to be honest. Even though sometimes in the past I've not acted like that, but you live and you learn. We're always developing, we're always moving forward. So yeah, just want to welcome on the stage Nyla.
Thanks, Clint. That was an amazing introduction. So, just want to say welcome, everybody. It's amazing to see so many familiar people on the team, but also so many new faces that I don't recognise. One thing that we all definitely have in common that's brought us all here today is we're on a mission for becoming the best versions of ourselves. Personal growth, for sure. And the reason why I want to share my story is I've overcome a lot of adversity over the years. And on reflection now at this point in my life, I've realised that actually it's been a massive asset to me, and it's shaped my character and built the person that I am today. So if anything, if I inspire one person in the room today, my job's done. So I'm going to go right back to the beginning. When I was a little girl, I was born into a very affluent family. Lived in Cheshire, big house, private school. Quite a dream start in life, I would say, actually. My mum was a stay-at-home mum, very glamorous. And my dad went out to work, and he was a bit of a big shot salesman, had lots of people working for him. And then my brother came along when I was 3, and things started to crack within the family. It turned out that my dad was actually a raging alcoholic, and he'd be away most of the week working, drinking, gambling, messing about with women, and my mum would be at home looking after us. And she did the absolute best that she could to keep the family together, but it got to breaking point and they separated when I was 7. And that's really when the bubble burst for me. Everything changed overnight. I went to a very working class, white neighbourhood. It was quite rough. And me being mixed race in the primary school, where I felt at the time I was the only one from a broken family, probably wasn't the case, but I just felt very like I didn't belong and I didn't fit in. So at that time in my life, I really shrank myself. My personality changed. I went from being quite an outgoing little girl to someone who really didn't like any attention on herself, would avoid being seen, if you like. And mostly because I think I was just a bit afraid. You know, I felt different, and I wanted to fit in desperately. So when I went to secondary school there, went to quite a good all-girls school actually, and had a good group of friends, but I'd learnt this skill how to sort of go under the radar and not attract any attention to myself, so I never got sort of into trouble, never got bullied. I was a massive people pleaser, and yeah, I just really didn't feel very confident. I had quite low self-esteem, and that was the first time that I actually felt like I wasn't enough. So by the time I got into college, here on this side, there's a picture of me and my mates who I'm still best friends with now. So I feel very lucky that I've got friends that are like sisters, and we had a great time. We were out clubbing. I was studying art and design. Always had like a very artistic flair, and great time at college. Afterwards, I just naturally assumed I would get an amazing job. I'd be driving a Mercedes and I'd be a designer, and that didn't happen for me. I just didn't have that drive and that self-belief to go out and seek opportunities and like move to London and do the things that I needed to do. So I stayed in Manchester, and my weekends were spent clubbing, and I had an amazing time, don't get me wrong. I made some fantastic memories. But on the flip side of that, I was really holding myself back because I was taking recreational drugs, just getting steaming every weekend. Come Monday, thoroughly regretting it. Then by Wednesday, starting to feel a bit more like myself. and then by Friday you've forgotten and you're back out on the scene. But that was really, on reflection, me sort of filling a void, because I didn't really have any purpose in life. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I wasn't a designer. I was working in dead-end jobs, and the weekends were what I lived for. Plus, I feel like the recreational drugs gave me a false sense of confidence. You know, I felt like I could talk to anyone and go anywhere. So this is a little identity reflection. Hands up if anyone has ever had a moment in your life that's made you question your own self-worth. Yeah, there's a lot of people, isn't there? And it's crazy because it really does hold us back from like seeking opportunities and just becoming the best version of ourselves. So what really stands out to me, like back then, I used to speak to myself really badly. Like I would be like, oh, you're not good enough. You've not got a good enough personality. You're not interesting. You're not good looking enough. You know what I mean? And you've got to be really careful the way you speak to yourself, because you're putting out a vibration. We're all energy at the end of the day, and what we want is on a vibrational, on an energetic level. So if we're always talking badly to ourselves, we're not attracting any good things into our lives. We want to do the opposite. So anyway, fast forward a little bit. I met my ex-husband at the age of 18. We got married about 10 years later and started a family. Did everything like traditionally. Got married, saved up for a house, and then planned a family. And I had 3 children really quickly, back to back. Within 4 years, I had 3 children. My eldest, on the bottom right there, Andre, he was absolutely stunning when he was born. Like, I felt like the luckiest parent on earth. These bright blue eyes, we just got milkman jokes all the time because neither myself or my husband had blue eyes. And, you know, naturally as a parent, you've got all these aspirations and dreams for them. You think, oh, he's going to be a lady killer, you know, and then he's going to be like a model. He's going to be this and he's going to be that. And you look forward to them growing up. Andre was a very fussy baby, I'm not going to lie, and at times I really doubted myself. I thought, what am I doing wrong? None of my friends had had children, I was the first one, so it was quite isolating at that time. But, you know, I just rolled my sleeves up and cracked on. Then when I had my other 2 children, I was like, something's different, because they settle really well. But I didn't really think too deeply into it until he started nursery, actually. And immediately, within a couple of weeks, the nursery staff had flagged that he needed to have an ADOS test, and I didn't know what that was. So basically, for anyone that doesn't know, an ADOS test is when they suspect your children have autism or on that spectrum. And I was pregnant with Lola, my 3rd child, when we got the diagnosis, and I remember that day as clear as it was yesterday. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that he got an autism diagnosis. I thought, how is this possible? I don't know anyone that's disabled. No one's disabled in my family. How am I going to cope? And I just got this victim mentality. But I went through all of these stages of grief, and not necessarily in that order, but definitely it started with shock and it started with denial. And my ex-husband at the time said something to me that helped me cope, and that was, don't worry, it's childhood autism, meaning that he'll grow out of it. And I was like, because I was just terrified. That was the first time in my life when I felt like something is way out of my control and I can't stop this. But also, I always desperately wanted to just be normal and just to fit in and not have any kind of stress like that. Pull myself together because, as I said, I was pregnant with Lola and I knew that I needed to be healthy for my baby, and just got on with life. So when Lola was 3 years old, about 18 months old, I decided that I wanted to get fitter. I never had a weight issue, but I was definitely very soft now at this point and had all these children. And I remember one day just looking down at my tummy and thinking, I don't feel confident, like my shape's changed, I need to do something about this. So I did an exercise. It was actually a step aerobics class, and I found it really bloody challenging. There were 60-year-old women that were fitter than me. And I thought, right, that's it, I need to keep going with this. But also, what was appealing was there was a creche And me having 3 kids on my own while my husband was at work all the time, I was like, this is win-win. I get to spend an hour on me and someone else looks after my kids for an hour. So before I knew it, I was doing it 5 times a week. So this is obviously not a picture of me. That was my goal physique, Ashley Horner. She was one of the first people that I'd seen on Instagram who I was like, fucking hell, she is a woman. You would not mess with her. Look at her body. And that was my physique goal. But this is actually me on holiday before I started training. As you can see, not overweight, but just skinny. And then this was my physique after, I would say, about a year. And so really it was just newbie gains. I got very lucky with that. But fitness became a massive distraction because what nobody really understood about me is that I had developed this high achiever sort of mentality. And whatever I did, I got a little bit obsessive, like I'd put on a front, you know, I was a perfect wife, the perfect mum. The children always had to be dressed immaculately. The house always had to be clean. And when I got into fitness, I wanted to be the best, you know, to me. And I didn't want to be the girl at the back of the room wearing the oversized clothes anymore. I wanted to be the one at the front that was like killing it. So I moved on from gym classes into the gym. And I didn't actually have anybody to educate me around nutrition or about how to rest and recover from exercise. I was eating quite a shit diet, really. I think typically I would have something like a ham and cheese sandwich after training. Didn't really drink any water, survived on cups of tea, had a very high, stressful life because of my children, you know, love them dearly, but looking after a child with autism is like looking after 10 kids. And then you've got the other 2 as well that you don't want to leave out. I was also self-employed, and with every child that we had, we sold the house and moved and renovated. So I was literally spinning all these plates at the same time. And then I distracted myself with the fitness to make me feel good. Because one thing about working out is, you'll recognise this, you release endorphins, and that is what I missed. I wasn't getting that from the recreational drugs years ago. And I was leaving these gym classes feeling like a badass, or, you know, walking out the gym, like hearing someone say, she's hench. And I was thinking, what? Are they talking about me? Do you know what I mean? So it became a bit of an addiction, and I was running myself into the ground. So then my health collapsed, really. Within about a year, I had tonsillitis 7 times. I was running to the GP every time in a bit of a panic, going, just give me something. I can't take a day off. I've got all these kids. I've got work. I've got this, that, and the other. And so I never got the advice to, you know, change your lifestyle. Something isn't working for you. You shouldn't be getting poorly all this so frequently. And I was just given the antibiotics. Little did I know that every time I took a course of antibiotics, I was ruining my gut bacteria, and just blasting out all of the good bacteria as well as the bad, which definitely led to huge digestion issues. And literally, I just started with IBS symptoms, to the point where every time I ate a meal, I was bloated, I felt tired, I was in chronic pain. So emotional avoidance was what I was doing, and I can see that now. But I'll ask a question to you guys. Be honest, who here themselves keeps them busy in order to not feel something? Nobody? Yeah. A lot of people do. Sometimes it might be an uncomfortable conversation, it might be avoiding a decision in life, you know, walking away from a toxic relationship, whatever it is. So these are some of the ones that I could think of that people generally do. And I was definitely guilty of overtraining, OCD cleaning, laughing things off. When people would ask me, "You okay, Nyla? You've got so much going on in your life." I'd be like, "Oh yeah, it's fine. I'm absolutely fine." Master like actress, never really opening up. And then shopping as well. And then the others on the other side, you know, I see this a lot in coaching as well. People that have come from a background of avoiding things that they need to address. So what they all have in common is dopamine. It's a dopamine hit. So 2019, got some bad news. My ex-husband at the time, he had a lump in his throat, and it turned out he was diagnosed with cancer, and that came as a massive blow. We were a team, we looked after these children, ran the house, and although I would say our personal side of our marriage had broken down, we were really good parents, and everyone always complimented us on that. But I feel like high stress and me now kind of leading a separate life, if you like. I was building my new identity. I was building my confidence with that and my self-esteem. When I was going in the gym and I was hitting these PBs, I was thinking, wow, I did that. This is the girl that never used to put a hand up to do PE in school. Like, I'm changing, I'm feeling good about myself. And quite often I'd go home and tell him I've just hit a PB, he'd be like, so? Or I'd say, look, I'm getting a bit of definition. Don't like women with muscle. Okay. And I feel like that did cause a rift in our marriage because we just became completely separate lives. And during this time, I had a coach who encouraged me to do a photo shoot, actually, very much out of my comfort zone, but the best thing that I ever did. And I started to do many, many photo shoots. I was very nervous the first time, but with each time that I did it, I felt like I grew a little bit more. And it was definitely a turning point for me. This middle picture was lockdown, actually, 2020. And when everything came to a standstill in life and, we couldn't go out, we couldn't go to the gyms, I was training at home. I was training at home every day in the garden, making the most of the beautiful weather. I was doing podcast walks, feeling really inspired by, I don't know if anyone's heard Lewis Howes, The School of Greatness, but he was like my favourite one to listen to. And for the first time in my life, I actually felt like, instead of thinking, poor woe me, all these plates that I'm spinning, and, my husband going through cancer, my children, on the spectrum, and having all these financial pressures, I was thinking there's people that are far worse off than me and have overcome adversity, and look how strong they are, and it inspired me. So lockdown was a very difficult time because it kind of magnified all the problems that were in life, but I did have techniques, like I said, training and going for walks that really built me and kept me feeling strong. But the picture on the right was my birthday, and that was a real turning point. I took a selfie with a glass of wine and posted it on Instagram, and it was the fakest picture I've ever posted in my life. Smiling, sort of announcing it was my birthday, but really it was the loneliest time in my life. I sat down on my bed after I posted that and I thought, what a fraud. And people congratulating me and saying happy birthday and stuff. And do you know what? I made a decision that day. This is such a pinnacle moment. I thought, I'm unhappy. I've admitted it to myself now. I've been afraid to do so for so long. In 12 months, I'm going to completely change my life. Nope. So this is just a vision exercise. I would love for everyone, I know it sounds a bit awkward, but if you just close your eyes for 10 seconds and put your hand on your heart and just think, what is it that you would really, really want to achieve out of life? Right, everyone can open their eyes. Great that everyone got stuck into that. So would anyone like to share something that they would really love to achieve? Yeah, go on, Ali. That's mega. And you're doing it. So well done. Anybody else like to share? No? Okay. So I feel like, you know, most of us get so wrapped up in family life and going to work and we're on this treadmill of life that we sometimes forget who we are and what we really, really want to achieve. And this position that I was in at that chapter in my life really forced me to just tune into myself and think, I am not happy. I feel like I'm disconnected. You know, my marriage has broken down. I don't know what to do next, but I know that something has to change because I feel suffocated here. I would like to just add that my husband made a full recovery from his cancer, so that was really good news, and he went into remission. So 12 months later, this is me. I stayed true to my vision and I started over again as a single mum. And it's something that I never imagined I'd do because I'd seen my mum go through that and how difficult it was for her. But you can see how happy I was on my picture. I knew I'd made the right decision. I'd sold the family home, downsized, bought a do-upper, me and the kids, that's how we lived, in a building site. But I was doing it by myself and I felt so empowered and I could see the future and I'd turned a corner. So throughout that time, you probably can't see actually because of the sunlight, but I was working for in a corporate job, doing hair makeup for a big fashion company, and that was very much my comfort zone. I'd been there 5 years and I felt very lucky to be there because I worked with amazing people. Every day was just like fun, you know, international models coming in, we had music playing, and I always looked forward to going to work, but as I said, it was my comfort zone, and I knew that within 5 years, that's it. It had an expiration date, and so Clint asked me to start coaching females, and I'm really glad that I did. Because I started basically coaching in the evenings and the weekends. And so I went into grind mode for a solid 18 months, working relentlessly. And I knew that I wanted to build now a new life, move on again, and have a different lifestyle instead of sitting in work every single, you know, Monday to Friday in traffic and driving into town in the rain and getting home late and not seeing enough of my kids. And so what I wanted to do was become a full-time coach, and I kept the 2 jobs going for 18 months because I wanted to build my experience. I wanted to save money and feel like I've got something to fall back on, but also I wanted to just know in my heart that I'd made the right decision. And so, 18 months later, I took the plunge. And that's basically because for the first time in my life, I actually found my purpose. I realised that everything that I'd been through had brought me to that point. You know, all the struggles, all of the adversity, all of the days when I felt helpless, all of the days when I went into the gym and just thought, what the hell's going on in my life? I just kept pushing on and I never let go of the vision. And I thought, I can use this to help other females overcome their self-limiting beliefs and to help them build their self-esteem and get fitter and stronger. So ask yourself, what's one thing that you should be doing right now that you are avoiding? Right, okay, so basically it's just an overview of how I rebuilt myself. Strength training being number 1. That was right at the start of my journey, feeling fantastic every time I left a session. Goal setting, that just builds so much self-belief. Every time you set a goal, it's got to scare you as well as excite you. Vision boards, I have one on my phone all the time, And let me tell you, that is powerful. Everyone will have different techniques, something that connects better to them. But when I can see something on my phone that I look at 100 times a day, it keeps my vision crystal clear. Positive affirmations are massive for me. Like I mentioned earlier, speaking to yourself like you would to somebody that you love. Reading, podcast, journaling, meditation, and crystal Reiki healing might sound a little bit woo-woo, but something that I got into last year that really helped me release a lot of trapped trauma. And as I said, these weren't tasks, these were all identity builders. So last year was a milestone year for me, and I turned 50. I couldn't believe it, 50 years old. I knew it was coming. Something I'd always dreaded, like I dreaded turning 30, I dreaded turning 40. There's something about those milestone years. And I think what it is in society, we always have this impression that over 40 women are washed up, or, you know, the best years are behind them and you've got to achieve everything before then. And I wanted to represent women that were midlife and show you that you can start over. Your age does not define you, and your circumstances bloody do not define you. So knowing that my 50th was coming up, I sat down and I planned, what do I want to do? And I knew I wanted to travel. So that was the reason why I left my corporate job, because I couldn't do that if I was in town every week. I travelled in the end to 12 countries, working from my laptop, coaching. I bought my dream car, which was massive for me because I've always had this limiting belief about spending money. You've got to hold on to it, you know, so that felt fantastic. I did more photo shoots, I did podcasts. I had the best year, and I'm really proud of that. I've achieved everything that I meant to do. But amongst all of that, all that fantastic positivity, the picture in the middle is myself with my mum, because my mum passed away 2 months before my 50th birthday. And it was a massive, massive shock. My mum was glamorous. She looked after everybody. She was very mobile. She was only 72, and there was no warning. I spoke to her and she said, I feel so poorly, Nyla. I've never felt like this before. And 2 days later, she was gone. And when I went to a funeral in Cyprus, it was bittersweet because it kind of brought all the family back together that had separated over the years. And we celebrated her life. And the day that I came back from a funeral, I did that photo shoot, and I questioned my motives. I thought, should I actually be doing this? Is it disrespectful? And then I thought, no, my mum would want me to do it. She'd want me to be living my best life. She wouldn't want me to be sad. She was always my biggest supporter, my cheerleader, and I made her proud of everything that I did. So I thought, fuck it, I'm doing that photo shoot, and I'm glad that I did. So my message is, pain did not break me, it actually built me. There was times when I was grieving my mum and I'd go on walks, and you know, I had a lot of support from family and friends, but I'd go on these walks and I'd have these massive sort of spiritual moments. Where I live, there's these canal walks, and I'd just walk for miles and miles and just try and process everything. And then I had these moments where the sun would come out of the clouds and just, the only way I could describe it was like the sunlight came out and it filled my body with love and light. And I think it was a gift from my mum. And ever since then, every single day, I feel like that she's been with me and I've never felt alone. So that was basically a power pivot. And I can't actually read that, so I'll try and memorise it. So I just want to leave you with this last sort of quote, really. I was on a walk recently and I thought, for the majority of my life, I felt like there was something missing. I was always searching for somebody or for something to make me feel complete. But it turns out the person that I was looking for was here. It was me. And that's it. Thank you for listening.